The entire school knew that feng shui, the campus belle, was an eternal iceberg. But whenever I appeared, she would instantly transform from an aloof goddess into an unbearably clingy girl who couldn't live without me. They asked me what made me so special. What made me so special? Just this. I was the one who fed her, bite by bite, since we were kids. Hey, classmate, do you know where feng shui is? I had no classes in the afternoon and was heading to the library to grab a seat when a tall, well-built guy in a basketball jersey stopped me. He was holding a cup of pink bubble tea, his eyes full of anticipation and nervousness. Clearly another one of feng shui's admirers. I pointed toward the arts building not far away. She's probably in the dance studio on the third floor. Thanks. Thanks so much, bro. As if he had just struck gold. The guy clutched the bubble tea and dashed off. My roommate, Lao San, nudged me with his elbow and grinned mischievously. Hey you, another one with a death wish. How many seconds do you think he'll last? I shrugged. 3 seconds. From the moment he speaks to the moment feng shui tells him to get lost. I bet 2 seconds, Lao San chuckled, including the 1 second it takes for her glare to freeze him solid. We exchanged knowing smiles and dropped the topic, continuing toward the library. Feng shui, the school's undisputed goddess, the dance department's pride and joy. With her ethereal, ice-cold beauty, swan-like neck, and perfect figure honed by years of dance, she was the center of attention wherever she went. Her suitors could form a line stretching from the south gate to the north gate, including wealthy second-generation heirs and brilliant academic achievers. Yet without exception, they all crumbled under her icy gaze. Over time, she earned the nickname the Iceberg Campus Belle. No one knew that this iceberg had a switch that could melt her instantly. And that switch was me. Chunyu. We found a spot by the window in the library. I had barely opened my book when my phone vibrated. It was a message from feng shui. A picture, followed by a pitiful, pouting emoji. The picture showed a lone cup of pink bubble tea sitting on the floor of the dance studio, with no one else in sight. I could almost picture what had just happened. The basketball guy mustering his courage, rushing into the dance studio, and offering the drink to feng shui as she was stretching. Feng shui, I like you. This is for you. Feng shui would have lifted her flawless face, her eyes devoid of emotion, and uttered a single word. Leave. The guy would have been frozen on the spot, forgetting his bubble tea in his panic to escape. I couldn't help but smirk and replied, "Scared off another one." She responded almost instantly. He was so annoying, interrupted my practice. You can't always be that harsh. I don't care. UG, my legs hurt. Rub them yourself. No, I want you to do it. I'm at the library. I'll do it when I get back tonight. I want it now. She followed up with a series of emojis of someone throwing a tantrum. I sighed helplessly. Lao San, sitting across from me, leaned over curiously. Who is it? You seem happy chatting. Your girlfriend? No, just a little sister. I mumbled, quickly putting my phone away. Little sister? Lao San wiggled his eyebrows. The kind that calls you Onayakin. I rolled my eyes and ignored him. He gave up and turned his attention back to his book. But my mind was already elsewhere. I checked the time. For 30. Feng shui usually finished dance practice around 5. I closed my book and said to Lao San, I've got something to do. I'm heading out. Can you take my books back? Going to see your little sister again? I didn't deny it, grabbed my jacket and left. Instead of heading back to the dorm, I turned into a familiar alley next to the campus. At the end of the alley stood an old residential building. I took out my keys and unlocked a door on the second floor. I'm back. As soon as I spoke, a sweet-smelling figure rushed out of the bedroom and threw herself into my arms. UG. The girl looked up. Her face, which was always cold and detached at school, now wore an overwhelmingly sweet smile, her eyes brimming with dependence and joy. It was feng shui. She was wearing loose pink bunny pajamas, her long hair casually draped over her shoulders, barefoot on the cold floor. Like a kitten who had found its owner, she nuzzled against me. Why aren't you wearing slippers? I frowned, bent down, and scooped her up into my arms. She let out a small gasp, immediately wrapping her arms around my neck, her slender, pale legs dangling playfully around my waist. I was waiting for you to put them on for me, she declared, her voice soft and sugary. I lifted her onto the sofa, then turned to fetch her plush slippers from the shoe cabinet. Kneeling down, I held her delicate ankles and gently slipped the slippers on her feet. Her feet were beautiful, with cute, rounded toes glowing a healthy shade of pink. I couldn't resist giving the soft sole a gentle squeeze. "Ah, that tickles," she giggled, pulling her feet back and collapsing onto the sofa, shaking with laughter. Seeing her so unguarded, my heart softened. Who would have thought this was feng shui, the untouchable campus ice queen who made countless boys keep their distance? This small apartment was our secret hideout. I had rented it during my freshman year using money from part-time jobs and saved scholarships. Also, she would have a place to shed all pretenses and be the little girl who only clung to me. "UG, I'm hungry." Feng Shui sat cross-legged on the sofa, aimlessly flipping through channels with the remote, pouting as she called toward the kitchen. "What do you feel like eating?" I asked, tying my apron as I peeked out. "Sweet and sour ribs, cola chicken wings, and scrambled eggs with tomatoes." Her eyes sparkled as she listed the dishes, like a hungry little bird waiting to be fed. They were all dishes I had been making for her since we were kids. Feng Shui's parents were both business people, constantly flying around the world, too busy to even catch their breath. Our families were neighbors, and for as long as I could remember, Feng Shui had been my little shadow, always following me around, calling UG, UG. As a child, she was an extremely picky eater and often sickly, as thin as a bean sprout. Her parents had no time to take care of her, and she disliked the food prepared by their housekeeper, often going an entire day without eating more than a few bites. My mother felt sorry for her and asked me to bring her meals from home. But that little girl was fussy. She wouldn't eat this, didn't like that. Left with no choice, I, a boy barely in my teens, had to grit my teeth and teach myself to cook, starting with the simplest dish, scrambled eggs with tomatoes. It was common for hot oil to splatter and blister my hands, and cutting my fingers while chopping vegetables became routine. Little by little, I figured it out, and my cooking skills gradually improved. And Feng Shui, under my careful feeding, transformed from that scrawny bean sprout into the graceful young woman she was now. So, when people ask me how I managed to win Feng Shui over, I always thought to myself, it's because I'm the one who fed her bite by bite since we were children. That kind of bond, no one could ever match it. Half an hour later, 3 dishes and a soup were laid out on the table. Feng Shui was already sitting obediently in her chair, clutching her chopsticks, her eyes fixed eagerly on me. "Go ahead, little greedy cat," I said, smiling as I placed the largest piece of sweet and sour ribs in her bowl. Her face immediately lit up as she stuffed it into her mouth, her cheeks puffing out like a little hamster's. "So good," she mumbled, her words barely intelligible. "No one makes it better than UG. If it's good, then eat more." Watching her satisfied expression warmed my heart. Feeding her seemed to have become a habit etched deep into my bones. After the meal, as I cleared the table, she hugged a cushion and trailed behind me like a little tail, hovering around me. "You, gee," she spoke from behind me, her voice hesitant. I responded, washing the dishes. "Today, that guy, the one who brought me bubble tea. Yeah, what about him? His name is Lin Feng. He's from the computer science department," she said softly. "He seems pretty well known, and his family is rich." I paused mid-scrub. I'd heard the name Lin Feng before. He was the captain of the university basketball team. Handsome, outgoing, a campus celebrity. Rumor had it his father was the chairman of a listed company. So, that reckless guy from earlier was him. And then, I dried my hands and turned to face her. She lowered her head, nervously picking at the edges of the cushion. "He asked me to go see a movie with him this weekend." My heart sank sharply. I knew Feng Shui never lacked suitors. There were plenty with better qualifications than Lin Feng. But this was the first time I'd heard her personally mention being asked out by another guy. I looked at her without speaking, my gaze gradually turning cold. The air seemed to freeze. Sensing my displeasure, she cautiously looked up and Shonda called out, "UG?" Her eyes reddened instantly, as if she had been deeply wronged. "Are you angry?" I took a deep breath, suppressing the inexplicable irritation in my heart, and tried to keep my tone calm. "I'm not angry. You can go if you want." "I don't want to go," she immediately retorted loudly, throwing the cushion to the floor. She hurried over to me, grabbing the hem of my shirt. I already turned him down. I just wanted to tell you. Her voice trembled with tears, which fell like broken strings of pearls. I don't want to see anyone else. I just want to be with brother you. Seeing her cry so pitifully, my heart instantly melted into a puddle. All my irritation and displeasure vanished in a thin air. I reached out, pulled her in my arms, and gently patted her back. There, don't cry. I know it's my fault. I shouldn't have given you the cold shoulder. She sobbed in my embrace, her small fists lightly pounding my chest. You were angry. You were upset. Do you think I'm annoying? Do you not want me anymore? Silly, what nonsense are you talking? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I cupped her tear-streaked face and gently wiped away her tears with my thumb. How could I not want you? Really? She looked at me with teary eyes, her long lashes still glistening with droplets, looking both pitiful and adorable. Really? I leaned down and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead. Never. Her emotions came and went quickly. Reassured by my promise, she immediately brightened up, stood on her tiptoes, and gave me a quick peck on the lips. Then, like a cat that had successfully stolen a treat, she grinned, her eyes curved into happy crescents. Brother you still haven't massaged my legs. She grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the sofa. All right, I'll massage them right now. Resigned, I sat on the sofa and let her rest her long, slender legs on my lap. Her legs had an exquisite shape, with skin as smooth and delicate as fine mutton fat jade. Thanks to years of dance practice, her muscles were firm yet supple. I took some massage oil from under the coffee table, warmed it in my palms, and then applied it to her calves, kneading with just the right amount of pressure. That feels good. She closed her eyes contentedly, letting out a soft, cat-like sigh. My warm palms pressed against her smooth skin, and my breathing gradually grew unsteady. Especially when my hand slid up to her thighs, I could clearly feel her body tremble lightly. Brother you. Her voice carried a faint, barely noticeable huskiness. Your hands are so warm. I swallowed hard but said nothing, only increasing the pressure of my massage. The temperature in the room seemed to be rising steadily. Suddenly, she sat up and leaned close to me, so near that I could clearly see the starlight shimmering in her eyes, a mix of dependence, adoration, and a hint of desire. Brother you, she called out again, her voice softer and more pleading. I want. She didn't finish, but we both knew what she meant. I could no longer restrain myself. I cupped the back of her head and kissed her fiercely. This kiss carried a hint of punishment. I roughly pried open her lips, invading and conquering, leaving her no chance to catch her breath. At first, she seemed unable to handle it, letting out soft whimpers, but soon she responded to me with equal passion. Her arms wrapped tightly around my neck, her body pressing softly against mine as if she wanted to merge herself into my very being. The sofa was too small, too cramped. In one swift motion, I flipped her over, pinning her beneath me. Brother you, she gasped between kisses, her breaths coming in broken fragments. Let's go to the bedroom. I didn't answer, only responded with a deeper kiss. It wasn't until she was nearly breathless that I finally pulled away slightly, my forehead resting against hers, both of us panting heavily. Her cheeks were flushed with an enticing rosy hue, her watery eyes dazed as they looked at me, filled with a deadly allure. You little temptress, I muttered hoarsely, my voice barely recognizable. She giggled in response, sticking out her tongue to lightly lick her slightly swollen lips, a silent yet utterly provocative gesture. Brother you is the real bad guy. I can no longer hold back. I scooped her up in my arms and strode toward the bedroom. The bedroom door slammed shut with a kick from me. I gently laid her down on the soft bed. Moonlight streamed through the gaps in the curtains, casting a hazy silver glow over her delicate, well-proportioned figure. She was like a rose blooming in the dark, beautiful, delicate, and irresistibly tempting. I leaned down, covering her brow, eyelids, and the tip of her nose with soft, lingering kisses before finally returning to her lips. This time, the kiss was gentle and lingering, as if I were trying to convey all the love I had stored up over the years through that single kiss. The next morning, I was awakened by the ringing of my phone. Groggily, I fumbled for it and answered without looking. Hello. You? Where are you? Why didn't you come back to the dorm last night? The loud voice of Lao San echoed from the other end of the line. I jolted awake instantly. I glanced at Feng Shui, who was still sound asleep beside me. She was wrapped around me like an octopus, one leg draped possessively over my waist. Gently, I moved her arm and leg aside, lifted the blanket, and got out of bed. Only when I reached the living room did I lower my voice to reply. I was at my sister's place last night. Holy shit. Old San's voice shot up an octave. You sly dog, keeping a beauty hidden away? Were you bringing her out to meet us? Maybe later, I'd brush him off. No way was I joking about this. If they found out my sister was Feng Shui, the whole school would go crazy. All right, I've got to go. I'll hang up now. After ending the call, I walked into the kitchen to make breakfast. But when I opened the fridge, there wasn't much left. Looks like I'd have to go out and buy some groceries. I went back to the bedroom to find something to wear. As soon as I opened the wardrobe, I froze. My closet, at some point, had been filled with girls' clothes. Dresses, little camisoles, lace nightgowns. Every style imaginable. There was even a whole row of couples' hoodies in different colors, matching mine. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. When did this girl move her entire wardrobe into my place? I casually grabbed a t-shirt and jeans to put on, then picked out a white dress from her pile of clothes and laid it on the bedside table. Leaning down, I gently kissed Feng Shui's forehead. She seemed to feel it in her dreams, the corners of her lips curling into a sweet smile. I tucked the blanket snugly around her before quietly slipping out. The morning market downstairs was bustling. I bought some fresh ribs, eggs, and strawberries, Feng Shui's favorite. When I got back, she was already awake, wearing the white dress I'd left for her, and sitting at the vanity, blow-drying her hair. Amid the hum of the hairdryer, she caught sight of me in the mirror and turned around with a sweet smile. You're back, UG. Sunlight streamed in through the window, casting a soft glow around her. In that moment, it was as if I could see many years into the future. Every morning, me making breakfast for her, and her greeting me with a smile, saying, "You're back." A tranquil life. This must be what it feels like. Come have breakfast, I called softly, putting the groceries in the kitchen. Coming. She turned off the hairdryer, slipped on her sandals, and pattered over to me, wrapping her arms around my waist from behind. What's for breakfast today? Wontons and the strawberries you love. Wow, amazing. She cheered and gave me a loud kiss on the cheek. After breakfast, I drove her to school. As we neared the campus gates, her smile gradually faded. By the time the car stopped, she had once again become the cool, distant Feng Shui. She pushed the car door open and, before getting out, glanced back at me. There was a hint of something barely perceptible in her eyes. A warning? I was a bit confused. Then I spotted him, not far away, leaning against a flashy red sports car, holding a huge bouquet of roses, his face full of expectation as he stared in our direction. Lin Feng. In an instant, I understood the meaning behind Feng Shui's look. She was warning me not to get out of the car, not to expose our relationship. A bitter feeling rose in my chest, but I obediently stayed put. I knew it wasn't that she didn't want to go public. She was just afraid. Afraid of the gossip, the jealous glares, the trouble it might bring me. This silly girl was always trying to protect me in her own way. Lin Feng was clearly dressed to impress, decked out in brand-name clothes, his hair slicked back meticulously. The moment he saw Feng Shui step out of the car, he hurried over with the roses, wearing what he probably thought was his most charming smile. Feng Shui, good morning. These are for you. 99 roses representing my feelings. Feng Shui didn't even spare him a glance, walking straight past him as if he were invisible. Lin Feng's smile froze. A crowd of curious students had already gathered around, pointing and whispering. TSK, TSK, young Master Lin strikes out again. Well, duh, that's Feng Shui. Did you think she was one of those influencers who'd go for anyone with money? But you've got to admire Lin Feng's persistence. Even after so many rejections, he still doesn't give up. Lin Feng's face turned pale, then flushed with embarrassment. He took a deep breath, seemingly unwilling to give up, and turned to chase after her. Feng Shui, don't be like this. Can we talk? Just 5 minutes. He reached out to grab her wrist. Just as his hand was about to touch her, Feng Shui whipped around, her eyes as cold as ice. Don't touch me. Her voice was devoid of any warmth, carrying a bone-chilling frost. Lin Feng's hand hung frozen in midair, the color draining completely from his face. Sitting in the car and watching this scene unfold, the irritation in my heart vanished into thin air, replaced by a trace of secret satisfaction. Well done, my little iceberg. Feng Shui paid no more attention to Lin Feng, who stood petrified on the spot and walked through the school gates without looking back. I didn't start the car and leave until her silhouette had disappeared from my sight. I was in a good mood all day, even during afternoon classes. As the professor droned on about dry theoretical mechanics, I didn't find it as sleep-inducing as usual. That evening, instead of returning to the dorms, I went straight to our little apartment. As soon as I opened the door, I smelled something. Burning. Alarmed, I rushed into the kitchen. I found Feng Shui frantically fanning a pitch-black frying pan. Her small face was smudged with soot, making her look like a little calico cat. Cough, cough. Brother Yu, you're back. She saw me and gave a sheepish smile. Looking at the mess before me and the dish that was completely unrecognizable, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What on earth are you doing? Alchemy. I wanted to cook for you. She lowered her head aggrievedly, her voice trailing off. The recipe said tomato and scrambled eggs was easy, so I wanted to try. Who knew? Who knew the heat was too high? Seeing her looking so pitiful, I didn't have the heart to scold her. I walked over, took the spatula from her hand, and turned off the stove. All right, that's enough. Be careful not to burn yourself. I grabbed a tissue and wiped the soot off her face. What do you want to eat? I'll make it for you. But I wanted to cook for you. She looked up, staring at me stubbornly. How about you cook for me once you've learned how? I pinched her nose. For now, let the professional handle it. In the end, at my insistence, Feng Shui was escorted out of the kitchen. I told her to go take a shower and change her clothes. Dinner would be ready soon. By the time I put the food on the table, she had just finished her shower. She was wearing her pink rabbit pajamas, her wet hair draped over her shoulders. Her fair skin was flushed a faint pink from the steam, making her look absolutely edible. She sat obediently at the dining table, her eyes sparkling as she looked at the spread of food. Go blow dry your hair before you eat, I said with a stern face. No, she shook her head immediately, starting to act spoiled. Brother Yu, you do it for me. Do it yourself. No, no, no. I want you to help me. She ran over and hugged me from behind, burying her face in my back and nuzzling against me. Please? Brother Yu is the best. I was completely helpless against her. Just this once. Yay. Long live Brother Yu. Resigning myself to my fate, I picked up the hairdryer. I had her sit on the sofa while I stood behind her, gently drying her hair. Her hair was beautiful, black and shiny, sliding through my fingers like fine silk. The warm air from the dryer, mixed with the pleasant scent of her shampoo, lingered around my nose. My heart felt utterly peaceful. Brother Yu, she suddenly spoke, her voice muffled. Lin Feng came looking for me again today. I saw. Aren't you? Angry, she asked cautiously. Why should I be angry? I turned off the hairdryer, wrapped my arms around her shoulders from behind, and rested my chin on the top of her head. I trust you. In my arms, her body visibly relaxed. Brother Yu, you're so good to me. She looked up and pecked me on the chin. However, I changed my tone. However what? You did very well today. I paused before continuing. But next time, you can just tell him directly that you have a boyfriend. She froze for a moment. Then her eyes lit up. Can I? Of course you can. But I was afraid they'd badmouth you or cause trouble for you. I'm not afraid. I looked in her eyes and said seriously, Feng Shui, I don't want to sneak around like this anymore. I want to hold your hand openly and tell the whole world that you are my Chun Yu's girlfriend. I had buried these words in my heart for a long time. I enjoyed the sweetness of our private world, but I also longed to give her a proper status. I didn't want her to suffer any grievances. Feng Shui's eyes reddened. She stood up abruptly, turned around, and hugged me tightly. Brother Yu. Me too. Her voice was thick with emotion. I wanted to tell everyone for so long. Then shall we go public tomorrow? I asked tentatively. She nodded vigorously. There were tears on her face, but her smile was brighter than ever before. In that moment, I made a decision. Tomorrow, I was going to give everyone a surprise. The next day, the school forum blew up. It started with a photo, The background of the photo was the school's central flower bed. Bathed in the morning sunlight, I was down on one knee, holding up roasted sweet potato. Standing before me was Feng Shui, the school beauty known for being eternally cold as ice. She wasn't looking at me, nor at the roasted sweet potato in my hand. Instead, her head was tilted slightly to the side, and the corner of her mouth held a faint, yet very real, smile. The caption read, "Shock. Ice Queen's romance exposed. Is he the lucky guy?" The original poster was the president of the school's gossip club, famous for snapping candid shots of campus scandals. The moment the photo dropped, the entire forum exploded. WTF? What's going on? Am I seeing things? Feng Shui actually smiled, begging the gods for info. Who is this guy? He actually melted the iceberg. Wait, isn't that Xun Yu from the School of Economics and Management? The academic god who wins national scholarships like they're candy. Xun Yu and Feng Shui? Those two move in totally different circles, don't they? Comment above, you're out of the loop. I heard they were childhood sweethearts. So what if they're childhood sweethearts? There are tons of guys chasing Feng Shui with better stats than Xun Yu, and she's never smiled at any of them. Isn't the main point the roasted sweet potato? Is this some new courtship ritual? The physical embodiment of a cheesy pickup line? Ha ha. Other people propose with roses and diamond rings. He gives a roasted sweet potato. What a legend. The comment section was in chaos, with people saying all sorts of things. As one of the subjects of the photo, I was sitting leisurely in a classroom, scrolling through my phone and reading the comments with great amusement. That's right. I had arranged for the gossip club president to take that photo. After discussing it with Feng Shui last night, I contacted him and promised him an exclusive scoop. As for why it was a roasted sweet potato, because Feng Shui loves them. She especially loves the kind sold at street stalls in winter, piping hot and oozing with caramelized sugar. I believe that a steaming hot sweet potato would touch her heart more than flashy, impractical roses. As it turned out, I bet right. When I stopped her by the flower bed and handed her the fresh out of the oven sweet potato, she froze for a moment. Then ripples of amusement danced in her cool eyes. Although she didn't say a word and simply took the potato, I knew she was happy. You're a beast. Lausen leaned in and punched me on the shoulder. You've been holding out on us. When did you manage to bag the school beauty? Before I could answer, a commotion erupted at the classroom door. Xun Yu, get your ass out here. The angry roar silenced the entire room instantly. It was Lin Feng. He was standing in the doorway, his face livid. His eyes looked like they were spitting fire as he glared death at me. Behind him were several members of the basketball team, all big and burly. They clearly didn't come with good intentions. The entire class turned their eyes toward me in unison. A show was about to start. I slowly closed my phone, stood up, and walked unhurriedly toward the door under everyone's gaze. You looking for me? I stood in front of Lin Feng. Although I was half a head shorter than him, my presence was in no way inferior. Xun Yu, who the hell do you think you are? Lin Feng pointed at my nose and cursed. You think you can win Feng Shui over with a lousy roasted sweet potato? Keep dreaming. Whether I can or not doesn't seem to be any of your business, does it? I said calmly. You. Lin Feng's face turned red with rage. I'm telling you, Feng Shui is mine. You'd better stay away from her, or I'll make sure you can't stay at a university. Typical rich kid threats. Zero creativity. I sneered. Make me leave? On what grounds? Because your daddy pulls the strings? You're asking for a death wish. Provoked, Lin Feng swung his fist at my face. My gaze sharpened. I sidestepped to dodge, grabbed his wrist, and twisted it behind his back. Ah! Lin Feng let out a pained scream, completely immobilized by my grip. Seeing this, the teammates he brought along immediately prepared to rush me. Stop it, all of you. A cold, sharp rebuke froze everyone in place. Feng Shui had arrived without anyone noticing. She stood at the end of the hallway, dressed in white practice gear, her long hair tied high in a ponytail. She looked like a proud white swan. Her face was expressionless, but her eyes were cold enough to make one shiver. Everyone's gaze focused on her. Ignoring everyone else, she walked straight toward me. Every step she took seemed to tread on everyone's heartstrings. She stopped in front of me, glanced at Lin Feng, who was still pinned in my grip, and frowned slightly. Then she did something that made everyone's jaw drop. She reached out her hand and gently brushed away dust that didn't even exist on my shoulder. Then, she raised her head and looked at me. In those usually icy eyes for the first time before a crowd, there was a tinge of obvious. Heartache. Does your hand hurt? Her voice was soft, yet it traveled clearly to the ears of everyone present. The entire hallway fell into a deathly silence. Everyone was shocked, speechless by the scene before them. Was this the high and mighty iceberg school beauty, Feng Shui? She was actually caring about a boy, and using such a gentle tone? I looked at her, my heart warming, and shook my head. It doesn't hurt. Saying that, I released my grip on Lin Feng's hand. Lin Feng clutched his reddened wrist, his face filled with disbelief. Feng Shui. You. Feng Shui finally turned her gaze toward him. That look had returned to its usual coldness. Lin Feng, she said, articulating every word clearly. First, don't call me Feng Shui. Please call me classmate Feng Shui. Second, Chen Yu is my boyfriend. I do not wish for anyone to harass him again. Third, she paused, her eyes sweeping over everyone present. Her voice wasn't loud, yet it carried an authority that allowed no argument. Whoever dares to touch a single finger of his is crossing me. Feng Shui. Having said that, she looked at no one else, took my hand, and turned to leave. Wait. I pulled her back. She turned around, looking at me in confusion. I smiled, and right there in front of everyone, I pulled her into my arms, lowered my head, and kissed her lips. The whole world seemed to stand still at that moment. I could feel the person in my arms stiffen, then slowly relax, and even begin to clumsily respond to me. The sound of sharp inhales came from all around. I didn't care. I just wanted to use this kiss to declare my sovereignty to everyone. Feng Shui is mine. From beginning to end, she belongs only to me. That kiss directly caused the A University forum to crash completely. Hashtag Iceberg School Beauty Public Kiss. Relationship announced hashtag mystery boyfriend implies childhood sweetheart academic god hashtag roasted sweet potato token of love. Most romantic confession of the year hashtag various hashtags took turns trending, and my name and Feng Shui's became known to everyone at a university. Following that came all sorts of voices. There were blessings, there was envy, and naturally, there was no shortage of jealousy and skepticism. Apart from studying a bit better, what does Chen Yu have? His looks are average, his family is ordinary. Why does he get Feng Shui's favor? Exactly, Feng Shui is our university goddess. How did she end up with such a plain boyfriend? There must be an inside story. Maybe Chen Yu used some shady means. Identifying the sour grapes above. They are a talented man and beautiful woman, childhood sweethearts. Who are you monsters to object? I ignored all this gossip completely. Mouths belong to others. Let them say what they want. As long as Feng Shui is by my side, that is enough. After going public, the most immediate benefit was that I could finally hold her hand openly and walk in any corner of the campus. No more sneaking around, no more worrying about others' gazes. Feng Shui seemed to enjoy this feeling too. Although she was still quiet outside and her expression remained faint, whenever she was with me, the frost on her brow would melt, revealing wisps of tenderness. She would accompany me to the library to read, sitting quietly beside me for the whole afternoon. While I played basketball, she would wait on the sidelines holding water and a towel. No matter how many guys tried to hit on her, she turned a blind eye. Her eyes held only me. That feeling of being held in the palm of the hand by the world's most precious treasure was enough to make any man's vanity explode. Of course, that was limited to when we were outside. Once we returned to our small apartment, she immediately revealed her true colors. Brother, you, my feet are sore. I want a hug. Brother, you, this movie is boring. Let's do something interesting. Brother, you, I bought a new nightgown. Tell me if it looks good. Saying this, she would act like an enchanting cat, wearing that lace nightgown thin as a cicada's wing, swaying back and forth in front of me. Every time this happened, I would deeply understand what painfully happy meant. This little vixen always had countless ways to easily ignite all my desires. On the weekend, we nestled on the sofa watching a movie. It was a very old art house film with a slow pace and plain plot. I watched drowsily, but Feng Shui watched with great relish. She was curled up entirely in my arms, her head resting on my thigh, clutching a bucket of popcorn. When she saw a moving part, she would grab a piece of popcorn and stuff it into my mouth. Do you think they'll end up together? She tilted her small face up to ask me. They will, I answered absent-mindedly. Why? Because the male lead is handsome. She pinched my leg in dissatisfaction. So superficial. I smiled and lowered my head to kiss her hair. All right, enough. Just watch. In the end, the leads didn't end up together. They loved each other, but due to various misunderstandings and the obstacles of reality, they eventually parted ways and started families of their own. Feng Shui's eyes turned red as she watched. It's such a pity. They were clearly so in love. She sniffled, her voice thick with tears. I lifted her off my lap and had her straddle me, so she was facing me. Silly girl, that's a movie. It's fake. I wiped away her tears. But things like this happen in real life too. She wrapped her arms around my neck and buried her face in the crook of my neck, her voice muffled. We won't end up like them, will we? I could feel that she was afraid. This girl, who seemed so strong and cold, was actually deeply insecure at heart. She was afraid of loss, afraid of separation. My heart felt like it was being squeezed tight. It ached with a sharp pain. I tightened my arms around her and made a solemn promise. We won't. Feng Shui, I promise you, we will never be apart. Really, really. I cupped her face, making her look in my eyes. Unless I die, I will never let go of your hand. She looked at me for a long, long time. Then she smiled, though her tears flowed even harder. Chenyu, you big idiot. She laughed through her tears. Then she kissed me. This kiss was different from any before. There was no lust, no teasing, only the purest love and dependence. Like a ship that had been adrift for a long time, finally finding a harbor to dock. As the kiss deepened, the atmosphere shifted. Her hands began to roam restlessly over my body, and her breathing quickened. You, she whispered into my ear, her breath warm. I want you. My body stiffened, and in that moment, all my rationality crumbled. The next day, we both woke up late. By the time we got ready and went out, it was almost noon. What do you want for lunch? I asked Feng Shui, who was in the passenger seat as I drove. She tilted her head in thought. Let's go eat hot pot. It's been a while. Okay. I turned the car around and drove toward a famous hot pot restaurant in the city center. However, I never expected to run into the people I least wanted to see there. The hot pot restaurant was bustling and steamy. We managed to find a booth by the window with some difficulty. We had just sat down and ordered when a jarring voice rang out behind us. Oh, isn't this Feng Shui? What a coincidence. I turned around and saw two faces that were both familiar and strange. A well-maintained middle-aged couple. The man wore a high-end suit with a luxury watch on his wrist, while the woman was dripping with jewelry, clearly people of wealth and status. They were Feng Shui's parents. Although I had known them since childhood, the number of times we had actually met could be counted on one hand. They had always looked at me with condescending scrutiny. Feng Shui's face went cold the instant she saw them. Dad, Mom. She greeted them indifferently, with no trace of warmth in her voice. Her father swept his gaze over me, his brow furrowing imperceptibly, before saying to her, Feng Shui, come over and sit at our table. His tone was a command, not a suggestion. No, we've already ordered. Feng Shui refused without a second thought. Her mother's expression soured. She walked over, took Feng Shui's hand, and forced a smile. Feng Shui, don't be difficult. Your Uncle Lin and Annie Lin are here too. They came specifically to see you. As she spoke, she gestured toward a large table not far away. I followed her gaze and, sure enough, saw Lin Feng and a middle-aged couple sitting beside him. It seemed this was a carefully orchestrated matchmaking banquet, and the appearance of Feng Shui and me was just an accident. Feng Shui yanked her hand back, her voice as cold as ice. I'll say it one more time. I'm not going. Feng Shui. Her father's face darkened completely, his voice laced with anger. Don't be so ungrateful. Do you know the standing of the Lin family? Don't you realize how outstanding Lin Feng is? We've paved such a perfect path for you. What more do you want? I don't want anything. Feng Shui looked him straight in the eye, her gaze stubborn and cold. I will walk my own path. I don't need you to pave it for me, and my affairs are none of your business. You unfilial daughter. Her father pointed a trembling finger at her, shaking with rage. The surrounding diners cast curious glances in our direction. I stood up and shielded Feng Shui behind me, addressing her parents. Uncle, Auntie, Feng Shui doesn't want to go. Please stop forcing her. Feng's mother looked me up and down, her eyes filled with disdain and contempt. You must be that Chunyu, right? She sneered. I've heard about you. You're the one dating our Feng Shui at school? I suggest you have a little self-awareness. You and our Feng Shui are from two different worlds. Since you can't give her what she wants, don't hold back her future. Her words were incredibly harsh and merciless. My hands, hanging by my sides, unconsciously clenched into fists. Feng Shui trembled with anger. Mom, what are you saying? Chinyu is my boyfriend. I won't let you talk about him like that. Boyfriend? Feng's mother sounded like she had heard the world's biggest joke. It's just children playing house. You actually took it seriously? Feng Shui, let me tell you, your husband can only be someone like Lin Feng, someone whose family background and abilities match yours. As for him, she gestured at me with her chin, he's fine for a fling, but for anything serious? Absolutely not. Shut up. Feng Shui finally snapped. She grabbed a glass of water from the table and splashed it right at her mother. With a splash, the ice-cold lemon water drenched Feng's mother's expensive Chanel suit. Everyone froze in shock. Feng's mother screamed, looking at her disheveled state, her face twisted in fury. Feng Shui, have you lost your mind? Smack! Feng's father delivered a resounding slap across Feng Shui's face. The crisp sound silenced the entire hot pot restaurant. Feng Shui's face swelled up visibly, and a trickle of blood seeped from the corner of her mouth. She clutched her face, looking at her father in disbelief. In that instant, all the blood rushed to my head. I could no longer control my rage. I shoved her father aside and pulled the stunned Feng Shui tightly into my arms. You've gone too far. I roared at them, my eyes red. Then, ignoring them and the stunned expressions of Lin Feng's family behind me, I bent down, scooped Feng Shui up in my arms, and strode out of the restaurant. Inside the car, there was a deathly silence. Feng Shui leaned back in the passenger seat, her head turned toward the window, saying nothing. The swelling on her face hadn't subsided. The 5 distinct finger marks looked shocking. My heart felt as if it were being squeezed by an invisible hand, hurting so much I could barely breathe. I started the car and drove aimlessly through the streets. I didn't know where to go or what to say. Any words of comfort seemed so pale and powerless in that moment. After a long while, she finally turned her head and spoke, her voice husky. You, am I useless? I slammed on the brakes and pulled the car over to the side of the road. I turned to look at her and said, articulating every word, Feng Shui, listen to me. You are the bravest, strongest girl I have ever met. You are not useless at all. Her tears finally broke through the dam. She threw herself into my arms and wailed, crying like a child who had suffered a massive injustice. All these years, how much of this grievance and pressure had she borne alone? In front of others, she built high walls of ice, disguising herself as someone indestructible. Only in front of me would she let down all her defenses and reveal her most vulnerable side. I held her tightly, letting her tears soak my shirt. Cry. It'll feel better if you let it all out. I gently patted her back, my heart aching beyond measure. When she had finished crying and her emotions had gradually settled, I pulled out some tissues to wipe away her tears. Then, I took a spare tube of ointment from the glove compartment and carefully applied it to her swollen cheek. Does it hurt? She shook her head, simply looking at me unblinkingly with eyes that were red and swollen from crying. You, she said suddenly. Let's go to a hotel. I froze. I want to just be with you. She looked at me, a trace of pleading in her eyes. To go somewhere with just the two of us, where no one can find us. Seeing the vulnerability and dependence in her eyes, I couldn't refuse. Okay. I found a 5-star hotel in the city center and booked an executive suite with the best view. Looking out from the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, the entire city's nightscape was visible in a single glance. The room was quiet, with only the sound of our breathing. Feng Shui seemed to really like it here. She took off her shoes and walked barefoot on the carpet, like a curious child, touching and examining everything around her. The gloom on her face seemed to have lifted quite a bit. I called room service and ordered some desserts and fruits she liked. When the waiter wheeled in the cart, she was lying by the floor-to-ceiling window, staring blankly at the endless stream of cars below. "What are you thinking about?" I hugged her from behind, resting my chin on the crook of her shoulder. "I'm thinking, if only it could always be like this," she whispered. "It will be." I kissed her cheek. After we ate, she suggested taking a bath. The hotel bathroom was spacious, with a massage tub large enough for two. I filled it with hot water and added a few drops of lavender essential oil. Steam soon filled the entire bathroom. "You go come in with me." She sat in the tub, only her head and smooth shoulders visible, inviting me in. My Adam's apple bobbed. "You go ahead. I'll join you later." "No, I want you with me now." She stared at me stubbornly, her eyes leaving no room for refusal. I sighed, knowing I had lost her once again. I took off my clothes and stepped into the tub. The tub was large, but with two people inside, it still felt a bit cramped. Our bodies were inevitably pressed tightly together. She coiled around me like a beautiful serpent, her arms wrapping around my neck, her warm breath brushing against my ear. "You go." Her voice was lethally seductive. I felt the blood in my veins boil instantly. I cupped the back of her head and kissed her fiercely. Water splashed everywhere. That night, we were intensely intimate, as if trying to release all the unease and fear through that unrestrained passion. We made love many times, in the tub, by the floor-to-ceiling window, on the soft bed. Each time, she responded to me with fervor, as if trying to meld herself completely into me. In the end, she was too exhausted to even move a finger and fell into a deep sleep. I held her, gazing at her peaceful, sleeping face, but felt no drowsiness myself. Everything that had happened that day weighed heavily on my heart like a massive rock. Feng Shui's mother's words were like a thorn, deeply embedded in my heart. "You and our Feng Shui are not from the same world. If you can't give her what she wants, don't hold her back." What could I really offer Feng Shui? I was just an ordinary college student with nothing to my name beyond a meager scholarship and part-time job income. Feng Shui, on the other hand, was born into privilege. She should be wearing the most exquisite gowns, attending the most elite parties, and marrying a man from a suitable background who could elevate her career and life. Not struggling with me in a tiny rented apartment, worrying about a few thousand yuan in rent. Was I really the best choice for her? Was I truly holding her back? Once this thought took root, it spread like vines, growing wildly in my heart. Looking at the girl sleeping in my arms, I felt uncertain about our future for the first time. We stayed at the hotel for 2 days. During those 2 days, neither of us brought up the unpleasant incident at the hot pot restaurant. We acted like an ordinary couple, watching movies together, eating together, and doing what lovers do. Feng Shui's mood improved significantly, and her smile returned. But only I knew it was merely the calm before the storm. On the morning of the 3rd day, I received a call from an unknown number. It was Feng Shui's father. He sounded exhausted, without the arrogance he had shown the other day. "Chenyu, we need to talk." I paused for a moment before agreeing. I knew this day would come eventually. I arranged to meet him at the cafe downstairs. I didn't want Feng Shui to know. When I left, she was still asleep. I leaned down and kissed her forehead, then walked out without looking back. In the cafe, Feng Shui's father was already waiting. He looked much more haggard than a few days ago, with heavy dark circles under his eyes. "Uncle." I walked over and sat across from him. He ordered me a coffee and got straight to the point. "How much money do you want to leave Feng Shui?" My hand, holding the coffee cup, froze. Even though I had expected this, hearing it aloud felt like a needle piercing my heart. "Uncle, I'm not with Feng Shui for money." "I know." Feng's father sighed, pulled a document from his briefcase, and slid it across to me. "But reality is reality. Xinyu, you're a smart kid. You ought to know that between you and Feng Shui lies an impassable chasm. What you see now is merely the tip of the iceberg. Do you think that by being with Feng Shui, you'll only have to face opposition from her mother and me? No, you will be facing the entire Feng family, as well as the scrutiny and pressure from everyone we do business with. Feng Shui is the Feng family's only daughter. She will inherit the family business in the future. Her husband must be someone who can assist her in her career, someone capable of standing shoulder to shoulder with her. As for you, he didn't finish the sentence, but the implication was clear enough. I wasn't good enough. I stared silently at the document before me. It was a contract. As long as I signed it, agreeing to leave Feng Shui and never see her again, I would receive a breakup fee of 5 million. In addition, Feng's father would use his connections to secure me a position at a Fortune 500 company, guaranteeing a worry-free future. I had to admit, for any college student from an ordinary background, these terms offered immense temptation. 5 million was a sum many people wouldn't earn in an entire lifetime. Chenyu, I'm not forcing you. I'm giving you a choice. Feng's father's tone softened. You're a boy with a backbone. I know you wouldn't give up on your feelings just for money. But have you considered Feng Shui? If you love her, you should want what's best for her. What does she gain by being with you? Aside from so-called love, you have nothing. And love is the most unreliable thing in this world. It won't put food on the table or clothes on your back. Once you step out of university and your passion is worn away by the mundane realities of daily life, how far do you think you two will actually get? Can you bear to watch her suffer hardships with you? Can you bear to see her cut ties with us and forfeit everything she's entitled to, all because of you? Every word from Feng's father was like a heavy hammer, smashing ruthlessly against my heart. Indeed, could I bear it? How could I? More than anyone, I wanted her to live well, to be forever carefree, to always remain that proud little princess. If my existence would only become a burden to her, a stumbling block in her life, then shouldn't I truly let go? I picked up the pen. It felt as heavy as a mountain. Uncle, may I ask you a question? I looked up at him. Go ahead. Do you love Auntie? Feng's father froze, seemingly surprised by the question. He remained silent for a long time before slowly speaking. Your aunt and I had a business marriage. There is no love, only shared interests. Then are you happy? He fell silent again. This time he didn't answer, but I had already found the answer in his desolate gaze. They were not happy. I suddenly smiled. I slid the contract back in front of him. Uncle, thank you for your kindness. But I won't sign. You. Feng's father's expression darkened again. I will earn my own money. I will fight for my own future. I admit, right now I truly have nothing and I am not worthy of Feng Shui. But that doesn't mean I won't be worthy in the future. I stood up, looking down at him, my voice firm and resounding with every word. I love her, so I will do everything in my power to give her the best life possible. I will strive to stand at the same height as her, or even higher, to shelter her from the wind and rain. I will make her the happiest woman in the world. And I will achieve all of this with my own 2 hands, not through your charity. As for the pressure and obstacles you mentioned, we will face them together. As long as we love each other, nothing can separate us. Having said that, I didn't look at him again. I turned and walked away. The moment I walked out of the coffee shop, I felt my whole body surging with strength. The confusion and hesitation in my heart were swept clean away. Yes, I am currently unworthy of Feng Shui. But so what? The river flows east for 30 years and west for 30 years. Never look down on a young man because he is poor. I, Chenyu, will never admit defeat. However, when I returned to the hotel room, filled with lofty ambition, what awaited me was the desolation of an empty room. Feng Shui was gone. All her belongings had vanished. It was as if she had never been there at all. Only a single note remained on the nightstand. Written in her elegant handwriting were the cruelest words possible. Chenyu, let's break up. My parents are right. We are not from the same world. I'm sorry. The instant I saw that note, I felt my entire world collapse. One moment I was in heaven, and the next, I had plunged into hell. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe these were Feng Shui's true feelings. She loved me so much, relied on me so much. How could she give up on me so easily just because of a few words from her parents? Her parents must have forced her. I called her like a madman, but her phone was off. I sent her WeChat messages, but there was no reply. I went to her house to find her, but was stopped by security at the gate. I went to school to find her, but she had taken a long leave of absence, and no one knew where she had gone. It was as if she had vanished in a thin air, disappearing completely from my world. I don't even know how I survived that period. I locked myself in my apartment, neither eating nor drinking, neither sleeping nor resting. I lost a significant amount of weight, my beard grew scruffy, and I looked haggard. Old three and the others were worried about me. They took turns keeping me company and bringing me food. Oh, you don't be like this. It's not worth it over a woman. Exactly. There are plenty of fish in the sea. You're so outstanding. Are you afraid you won't find someone better? Better? Was there anyone in this world better than Feng Shui? No. In my world, there would never be a second Feng Shui. I started drinking heavily, getting dead drunk every day. Only under the numbing effect of alcohol could I temporarily forget the heartache and see that girl in my dreams, the one who would smile at me and act coquettishly towards me. But after waking from the dream, there was only deeper emptiness and despair. I hated it. I hated the snobbery and coldness of Feng Shui's parents. But I hated my own incompetence even more. If I were strong enough, if I had the ability to protect her, she wouldn't have left me. In the end, it was because I was too weak. On one drunken night, I received a call from an unknown number. Is this Chunyu? It's Lin Feng. I paused for a moment before realizing who he was. What do you want? My voice was as raspy as sandpaper. I know you must be very upset right now. Lin Feng's voice surprisingly held no trace of gloating, but rather a hint of sympathy. Actually, I wanted to tell you for a while. Feng Shui, she's going abroad. What? I sobered up instantly. The flight is at 3 o'clock the day after tomorrow, to the UK. She's going there for graduate studies, and probably she won't ever come back. Impossible. I roared. Why is she leaving? Why is she leaving me? There was silence on the other end of the line for a moment. Because she loves you. Lin Feng spoke slowly. She didn't want you to be targeted by her parents because of her, and she didn't want you to sacrifice your future for her sake. So, she chose to leave on her own. After that day at the hot pot restaurant, her parents locked her up and confiscated all her communication devices. She went on a hunger strike to protest, just to earn the chance to make one phone call to me. She asked me to tell you to forget her and live a good life. She said you are the most outstanding person she has ever met, and you deserve a better future. She also said, she's sorry. After hanging up, I couldn't hold it back anymore. Like a madman, I smashed everything in the room that could be broken into smithereens. Why? Why make such a cruel decision? Why use this method to be doing it for my own good? Feng Shui, you fool. You are the biggest fool in the world. Do you think I'll be happy if you leave? Without you, my world is nothing but a barren wasteland. I couldn't let her go. I absolutely could not let her leave me like this. I rushed out of the apartment and ran wildly down the street, lacking all direction. I had to find her. I had to ask her face to face. But where could I find her? I couldn't get into her house, and she wasn't at school. I collapsed to my knees in dejection, letting the icy rain beat down on me as I roared in despair. In that moment, I felt like an orphan abandoned by the entire world. The next day, nursing a high fever and dragging my weak body, I went to the airport. I didn't know if she would come, nor did I know if I would be able to see her. I just stubbornly waited there, clinging to the last thread of hope. I waited from morning until the afternoon. The airport PA system began announcing that the flight to London was boarding. My heart sank bit by bit. She still hadn't come. Just as I was about to give up and turn to leave, a familiar figure appeared at the security checkpoint. It was Feng Shui. She was wearing a beige trench coat, sunglasses, and a mask, wrapping herself up tight. Beside her were her parents and Lin Feng. She looked much thinner, and her face was pale. Her entire being radiated a coldness that pushed people 1,000 miles away. My heart felt like it was being crushed by a ruthless hand, the pain nearly suffocating me. I wanted to rush over, grab her, and ask why she was treating me this way. But my feet felt as if they were filled with lead. I couldn't move a single step. I saw Feng's father patting Lin Feng on the shoulder, seemingly giving him instructions. I saw Feng's mother holding Feng Shui's hand, a smile of relief on her face. As for Feng Shui, she didn't say a word the entire time, nor did she show any expression, like a puppet without a soul. Just as she was about to enter the security checkpoint, she seemed to sense something. She suddenly turned her head and glanced in my direction. Across the distant crowd, behind those large sunglasses, I couldn't see the look in her eyes clearly. But I knew she saw me. Our gazes met in midair for a brief second. Then, She resolutely turned around, walked through security, and vanished from my sight. In that moment, my world completely lost its color. I finally understood that between us, it was really over. For the first year after Feng Shui left, I lived like the walking dead. I went to class, took exams, and won scholarships like clockwork. Everyone thought I had walked out of the shadow of heartbreak and returned to being that invincible academic prodigy. Only I knew that my heart was already dead. I no longer went to the small apartment where we once shared so much laughter. I locked it up, sealing it away along with all my memories. I began to study and build my business frantically. I poured all my time and energy into my academics and my career. I wanted to become strong. I wanted to become strong enough to ignore anyone's judgment, strong enough to trample everyone who had once looked down on me beneath my feet. I wanted to make Feng's parents regret their decision back then. More importantly, I wanted to make myself worthy of the title Feng Shui's man, even if she was no longer by my side. After graduating from university, I rejected offers from all the major corporations. Using the first bucket of gold I earned during college, I started an internet company with a few like-minded friends. The process of starting a business was far more difficult than I had imagined. Capital shortages, technical bottlenecks, market suppression. Countless nights, I slept on the floor of the office, surviving on instant noodles and coffee. There were several times when the company was on the verge of bankruptcy. Whenever I wanted to give up, I would think of Feng Shui. I would think of her resolute silhouette as she left. I would think of the disdainful look in her mother's eyes. I would think of that $5 million check from her father. These memories were like whips, lashing me fiercely, forcing me to keep moving forward. I could not lose. I absolutely could not lose. Relying on this sheer grit, I managed to pull through. 3 years later, my company successfully went public. On the day I rang the opening bell, standing in the trading hall of the NYSE and watching the stock price soar on the screen, I felt not a shred of joy in my heart. I had become President Chun, in the eyes of others, a young and promising business tycoon. I had money, status, and everything I had once dreamed of. But the one person I wanted to share this with most was not by my side. In this vast world, without her, no matter how prosperous it was nothing but a wasteland. After the company went public, the first thing I did was acquire Lin Feng's family company. I didn't use any complex business strategies. I just smashed them with money. Using absolute capital advantage, I beat them until they had no power to fight back. On the day of the signing, Lin Feng came to find me. He looked much more mature, a trace of weather-beaten weariness on his brow. "Chinyu, I lost," he said with a bitter smile. "I accept my defeat wholeheartedly." "I didn't do this to beat you," I said indifferently, looking at the night view outside the window. "I know." He lit a cigarette. "You did it to prove to the Feng family that they misjudged you back then." I didn't speak. "Do you still love her?" he asked cautiously. I picked up my glass and downed the whiskey in one go. Love? That word had been carved into my bones and blood, fused into my very soul. How could I not? Is she doing well in the UK? I finally asked the question that had been buried in my heart for 4 years, the one I had never dared to voice. Lin Feng fell silent for a moment, then shook his head. "No." My heart suddenly tightened. After she went abroad, she developed severe depression. She locked herself in her apartment, wouldn't see anyone, wouldn't speak, and even harmed herself. When I rushed over, she was lying in the bathtub. The blood from her wrist had dyed the water in the entire tub red. If I had been just a step later, she might have. Lin Feng didn't continue, but my mind had already exploded with a loud boom. I didn't dare to imagine that scene. That delicate little girl, who used to cry at the slightest touch and was so afraid of pain, had actually treated herself in such a brutal way. My heart felt as though it were being violently gouged by a knife. The pain was so intense I could barely breathe. What happened next? What happened after that? I roared, seizing him by the collar. She was sent for treatment. Her condition fluctuated. Her parents regretted it too and wanted to take her back home, but she refused. She said the UK held traces of the person she loved, and she wouldn't go anywhere else. Lin Feng looked at me with a complicated expression. "Chenyu, she tortured herself like this because of you. For 4 years, there hasn't been a single day she didn't miss you. She has been waiting for you to find her. Lin Feng's words exploded in my mind like a clap of thunder. So, it wasn't that she didn't love me. So, she had been waiting for me all along. And I, like a fool, had spent 4 years wallowing in self-pity here because of my ridiculous pride. What a bastard I was. I couldn't wait another second. I immediately booked the earliest flight to London. During the 10-plus-hour flight, I was restless, every second feeling like a year. Lin Feng's words played over and over in my mind. Depression, self-harm. The thought of her enduring such pain all alone in a foreign land made my heart ache as if it were splitting apart. Feng Shui, wait for me. Please, wait for me. As soon as the plane landed, I rushed straight to the address Lin Feng had given me. It was an apartment building by the River Thames. Standing downstairs, looking up at the lit window, my emotions were in turmoil. Anticipation, nervousness, and fear. I was afraid to see her haggard state, and even more afraid that she no longer wanted to see me. I took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. It took a long time for the door to open. A blonde, blue-eyed foreign woman stood there. She looked like a caregiver. She asked me in English who I was looking for. I'm looking for Feng Shui. My voice trembled with nervousness. The caregiver looked me up and down, seeming hesitant. Just then, a cold, hoarse, yet incredibly familiar voice drifted out from the room. Let him in. My heart gave a violent jolt. It was her. It was Feng Shui's voice. I pushed past the caregiver and rushed inside. The main lights in the living room were off. Only a dim floor lamp was lit. Feng Shui was sitting on the sofa by the window, a thin blanket draped over her, clutching a throw pillow in her arms. It was the pillow I had once given her, a goofy-looking Shiba Inu. She had lost so much weight. Her cheeks, which used to have a touch of baby fat, were now gaunt, her face no bigger than a palm, her chin frighteningly sharp. Her complexion was deathly pale, devoid of any blood, and her eyes were empty and dull. The spirited, proud, and radiant girl from the past was nowhere to be seen. Tears instantly welled up in my eyes. Feng Shui. I choked out the name I had recited 1,000 times over. She slowly turned her head to look at me. Those eyes, once as clear as water, were now like a stagnant pool, devoid of any ripple. She just looked at me quietly, without speaking or showing any expression, as if she were looking at a stranger. It felt like a knife had been driven straight into my heart. I walked toward her, one difficult step at a time. Every step felt like walking on the blade of a knife. I reached her and squatted down in front of her, looking up, drinking in the sight of her greedily. Feng Shui, I'm here. My voice was thick with emotion. I'm sorry. I'm late. She still didn't speak. She just watched me. I reached out, wanting to touch her face, but froze in mid-air, afraid of frightening her. Feng Shui, come home with me, okay? I looked at her pleadingly. Let's go home. Back to our own home. At the mention of the word home, a flicker of emotion finally crossed her eyes. She lowered her head to look at the Shiba Inu pillow in her arms, then looked back up at me. After a long silence, she spoke slowly, her voice hoarse. Who are you? In that instant, my heart shattered into dust. She didn't recognize me? I'm Chinyu. Feng Shui, look at me, it's brother you. Panic set in. I grabbed her shoulders and shook her hard. She was terrified. She shrank back, fear showing in her eyes. Let her go. The caregiver rushed forward and pushed me away. Sir, please calm down. Miss Fong is emotionally unstable. You cannot agitate her. Seeing the look of terror in Feng Shui's eyes, I felt as if my heart was being sliced open. I took 2 steps back and raised my hands to show I meant no harm. I'm sorry. I won't touch you. I won't touch you. I stammered incoherently. How could I have forgotten? She was sick. She was suffering from depression. I couldn't communicate with her in any normal way. I sat slumped on the carpet, looking at her, my heart aching so much I could barely breathe. How did it come to this? How did it turn out like this? What on earth had she gone through these past 4 years? The caregiver told me that Feng Shui's condition was very bad. She had severe cognitive impairment and emotional detachment. She would selectively forget the people and events that caused her pain. And I, evidently, was on that list of things forgotten. She didn't remember me. She didn't remember the brother Yu she had followed since childhood. She didn't remember the man she had once loved to her very core. This realization was more painful to me than any torture. For the next few days, I didn't leave. I stayed right there in her apartment, keeping watch. Since she didn't want to see me, I slept on the floor in the living room. When she ate, I watched from the side. When she slept, I stood guard at her door. She still didn't speak to me, didn't even spare me a glance. But I could feel her guard against me slowly relaxing. One night, she had a nightmare, crying out in her sleep, "Brother, you don't go." I rushed into her room, lifted her from the nightmare, and held her tightly in my arms. "Feng Shui, don't be afraid. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." In my arms, she gradually quieted down and fell into a deep sleep. That night, holding her, I didn't sleep a wink. From that day on, she began to allow me to get close to her. Although she still didn't remember me, she no longer rejected my touch. I started taking care of her daily life, just like before. I cooked her favorite dishes and fed her bite by bite. I washed her hair and dried it for her. I told her stories about our past, even though she showed no reaction. I showed her our old photos one by one. When she saw the photo of me by the flower bed, proposing to her with a roasted sweet potato, her finger twitched slightly. A glimmer of hope ignited in my heart. One afternoon, the sunshine was lovely. I pushed her in her wheelchair for a walk along the River Thames. Wearing the white dress I bought her, she sat quietly in the wheelchair, watching the seagulls flying over the river. "Feng Shui, look, does that seagull remind you of yourself? Free and beautiful." She didn't react. "You used to love white the most. You said white is the cleanest. You also said that our future home should be decorated in white and natural wood tones, simple and warm. And you said you wanted to give me a daughter who looked like you, but had my eyes." I rambled on, not caring if she understood or not. As I spoke, my eyes reddened. "Feng Shui, please get better soon, okay? Let's go home. I'll take you home. We'll finish everything we left unfinished. We'll get married, have children, and grow old together." I crouched in front of her, holding her hand, tears streaming down my face. Just then, I felt a drop of warm, liquid land on the back of my hand. I jerked my head up. I saw Feng Shui weeping silently. Her eyes were still vacant, but the tears were real. "Feng Shui," I cried out in surprise. She looked at me, her lips moving as if she wanted to say something. After a long while, she squeezed two blurry syllables from her throat. "You, brother." That brother you, though slurred, exploded like a thunderclap in my ears. I froze, thinking I was hallucinating. "Feng Shui, what? What did you just call me?" I asked tremblingly. She looked at me, tears flowing even harder. She reached out a trembling hand and touched my face. Her hand was cold and shaking slightly. "Brother, you," she called out again, much clearer this time. "It's me, Feng Shui, it's me." I couldn't hold back any longer. I pulled her tightly into my arms, weeping with joy. She remembered. She finally remembered. In that moment, I felt like I owned the whole world. From that day on, Feng Shui's condition began to improve significantly. Although her memory was still intermittent and her emotions unstable, she remembered me. She would smile at me, hold my hand, and lean on my chest in reliance, just like before. On the doctor's advice, I decided to take her back to our home country. Returning to a familiar environment might be better for her recovery. Before we left, Lin Feng came to see us off. "Chen Yu, thank you." He looked at Feng Shui nestled beside me, his eyes holding relief and blessing. "Leaving her to you, I can rest easy." I patted his shoulder. "Thank you, too. If it weren't for you, I might. Let's not talk about the past." He smiled. "Treat her better from now on. She endured too much suffering for your sake." "I will." I looked at Feng Shui and made a solemn promise. I will spend my entire life making it up to her. Upon returning to China, I didn't take her back to her home, nor did we return to our old, small apartment. I bought a villa with a garden in the suburbs. The environment there was secluded and peaceful, far from the hustle and bustle of the city, perfect for her recuperation. I declined all business social engagements to stay by her side every single day. Together, we planted her favorite roses in the garden. Together, we read books and drank tea under the afternoon sun. Together, we cuddled under the starry night sky, whispering silly nothings. Her condition improved day by day. She began to speak more, and color returned to her cheeks. Although she would still occasionally sink into her moods, falling suddenly silent or bursting into tears, as long as I was by her side, holding her and talking to her, she would calm down quickly. One day, she woke up from a nap and suddenly said to me, "Brother, I want to eat the sweet and sour spare ribs you make." I froze for a moment, then was overcome with wild joy. This was the first time since she fell ill that she had actively made a request. I immediately rushed into the kitchen and began preparing in a frantic flurry. When the plate of appetizingly glazed ribs was set on the table, she clapped her hands happily like a child. She ate with relish, her cheeks puffed out like a little hamster. Watching her satisfied expression, my eyes unknowingly welled up with tears. It was as if I were seeing that little girl from years ago who used to tag along behind me, clamoring for spare ribs. It was so good. My feng shui was finally coming back. After the meal, she took my hand and led me to the villa storage room. Only then did I realize that this room, which I had never set foot in, was piled high with boxes of all sizes. She opened one of them. Inside were all the things I'd given her in the past. The goofy Shiba Inu pillow, the matching scarves we bought together, and even the movie ticket stub from our very first date. Every single item was laden with our memories. She picked up the Shiba Inu pillow, which had been washed until it was faded, and hugged it tightly to her chest, her eyes rimmed with red. "Brother, I'm sorry." She turned her head to look at me, her voice choking with emotion. "Those 4 years. I didn't mean to forget you." "I know." I walked over and embraced her from behind. "Silly girl. How could I blame you? I missed you so much." She buried her face in my chest and sobbed aloud. "I miss you every day. I missed you so much I nearly went crazy." "Me too." I tightened my arms around her, wishing I could merge her into my very flesh and blood. "Feng shui. I will never let you go again. Forever. Forever." In that storage room filled with memories, we held each other, crying and laughing. It was as if we were trying to make up for all the time lost over those 4 years. From that day on, feng shui seemed to have completely untied the knot at her heart. She was no longer the reticent patient with vacant eyes. She turned back into the little girl who smiled at me, acted spoiled, and clung to me. In fact, she was even clingier than before. She couldn't bear to leave me for a single moment. If I went to the company for a meeting, she had to follow. Then, hugging her Shiba Inu pillow, she would sit obediently in my office waiting for me to get off work. If I went to the restroom, she would guard the door. If I left her line of sight for even a little while, she would become anxious and start to cry. I knew this was a lingering effect of her depression. She had a profound lack of security. I wasn't impatient. On the contrary, I enjoyed her wholehearted dependence on me. I delegated most of the company's affairs to the vice president, so I could leave work on time every day to be with her. I took her traveling to places we had wanted to go, but never managed to visit. We kissed in the lavender fields of Provence. We watched the sunset by the Aegean Sea in Santorini. We huddled together watching the northern lights in a glass igloo in Finland. Every place we went, I took many, many photos of her. In the photos, her smile was bright and brilliant, like an ethereal sprite untouched by the mundane world. Everyone said that feng shui had turned back into that radiant, dazzling goddess. Only I knew she hadn't. She was just my little girl. The little girl who would pout in my arms and be happy for an entire day just because of a piece of candy. After returning from our travels, her condition was indistinguishable from a normal person's. However, her dependence on me had only increased, not diminished. And I, too, always held nothing back, satisfying her every desire. Watching her beneath me, transforming from an aloof, celestial maiden into a passionate enchantress. That extreme contrast was enough to drive any man insane. I was utterly addicted to seeing her like this, blooming for me and me alone. That night, we had just finished a vigorous round of exercise. She lay languidly on top of me, her finger tracing circles on my solid chest. "Brother, Her voice was husky and languid, tinged with the afterglow of passion. Let's have a baby." I froze. "What did you say?" She raised her head, her bright, sparkling eyes gazing at me with complete seriousness. "I said, let's have a baby." A baby that looks like you and like me. My heart was enveloped by an immense sense of happiness. I rolled over, pinning her beneath me. With my forehead resting against hers, my voice trembled with excitement. Okay, let's make a whole football team. She was amused by that, giggling uncontrollably. Look at you. What do you think I am, a mother so? Then, let's just have one first to check the quality. I lowered my head and captured her lips. A new round of the baby-making campaign had begun. 3 months later, holding a pregnancy test with 2 lines, Feng Shui threw herself into my arms, weeping. Brother, we're having a baby. I picked her up and spun around several times. I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to be a dad. The joy of that moment was beyond words. As soon as Feng Shui's parents heard the news, they rushed over immediately. Having not seen them for 4 years, they had aged significantly, their hair noticeably whiter. Carrying bags upon bags of supplements, they stood at the door, anxious and awkward, like 2 children who had done something wrong. Feng Shui. Her mother looked at Feng Shui, her eyes reddening. Mom is sorry. Damn, Feng Shui called out to them faintly, without much emotion, but also without hatred. Let the past remain in the past. I invited them inside. Her father looked at me, his gaze complex, hesitating as if he wanted to speak. Finally, he just patted my shoulder heavily. Chenyu, I'm entrusting Feng Shui to you from now on. I will. I nodded solemnly. After 10 months of pregnancy, the day of delivery arrived. Feng Shui gave birth to a daughter, nicknamed Nyanyan. The name was taken from a saying, if you keep something in mind constantly, there will eventually be an echo. The little one looked just like Feng Shui, especially those eyes, clear and bright like 2 black grapes. But her personality was like mine. From a young age, she was a little devil, mischievous, troublemaking, and full of energy. Feng Shui treasured her beyond measure. But little Nyanyan clung to me the most. Every day, she followed me around like a little shadow, calling out, Daddy, Daddy. Feng Shui got quite jealous over this. Chenyu, did you feed our daughter some magic potion? Why does she ignore me? Maybe. It's genetics. I held our daughter close and kissed Feng Shui's puffed-up cheek. Genetics my foot. Seeing her look so exasperated, I couldn't stop laughing. Sunlight streamed in through the French windows, falling on mother and daughter, warm and beautiful. Looking at the 2 of them, one big and one small, the most important women in my life, my heart melted. The whole school knew that the campus belle, Feng Shui, was an eternal iceberg, but only I knew she wasn't. She was just a little girl who needed to be cherished and loved. And how fortunate was I to be the one who could melt all her coldness and make her smile. Please drop a little red star to support the author. Wishing you great wealth.